Hello everyone, welcome to episode 19. And now I have forgotten what happened last episode because it's been a while. Also, I fixed up the what happened. For some reason the numbers were mixed up, so yeah. We're gonna have continuous exploration happen into the more the more southern regions of these areas all the way to the left over here, where we will begin to see them slowly explore further south as they are reaching rougher waters, as they will fully explore around that much, which leaves a giant path for them to go from the bottom of the world all the way around. And now they'll begin to go around Antarctica, which they still do not know about, and they will fully explore all of that, which leaves all of southern Antarctica like this. So yeah, there's that. As they'll even explore a little bit more over here, and this is when they'll explore a few southern islands over here, which will make them wonder, why is there islands all the way down here? There should be none over here. But they will see little bits of tribes over here. They'll be like, what are you doing? Why are you eating each other? Because these tribes are cannibalistic, which are from these little tiny islands down here, which it even includes all the way further south where they are still cannibalistic. So now we'll have the first region, or South Georgian Sandwich Islands, as it will be claimed by uh um what is this country? Oh, China. It will be claimed by China. Though they are a very far colony, they will still be claimed, and boom. As now they will claim those southern islands. Now let's get into the war scenarios. We are first gonna have this little thing happen over here. Let's go and turn on the military alliance layer. No military alliances have mostly come across anytime soon, but from the Star Alliance, we will see them kicking out the French because they have been imposing red teams over here, red Floridan teams land. So they will kick France out because now France has been debunked down to second place, or first place for military, but Korea is definitely in the lead behind them. China has now originally been separated apart for hundreds of years, is now probably in fourth place, so they are very close. So now moving away from China and everything, we will be moving to the Security Council. After the removal of France, the Security Council of the World Committee, which now becomes a world like religion follower thing. Yeah, so everyone is paying attention to this. They don't care. They're like, you gotta listen. If you do not listen, you are not gonna be a part of this. Basically, France is trying to control every single country, basically. As now we will begin to see the World Committee begin to install some rules. Italy cannot reunite together. Just go and turn off the World Committee layer. There shall be no more major expansions into Africa, but expansions into the Americas are allowed, except for Greenland, like the actual territory of Greenland, like the actual territory of Greenland, like this over here. No one is allowed to expand over here because they entrusted this nation, and if something happens there, that is on them. The Americas are free game except for the island of Greenland. Every other territory of Greenland is fair game. Any more rules of Europe? Prussia is not allowed to expand any more east of this line right here, past the Belgiums and the Monacans, though they can still expand south into Italy and other regions, like so. They can even expand into Denmark. They're just not allowed to expand into this region of Europe. That's just not allowed. though they are kind of protecting Finland because they like Finland. Russia, they're kind of not liking because Russia is a growing power and stuff like that. Because city layer, France does not have the most amount of cities now in Europe. In Europe, around, it's mostly just Greece and Russia that's competing, and Moldova is like right on the line there too, just barely. Now, if we move a little bit east over here, there's a lot of competitors in Asia, so there's a rule where like you cannot unite again once you fracture, and that's a rule from this. So yeah, there's that. I might not remember these rules, but those are some of the rules I could remember. But now we're gonna see an expansionist goal happen after Prussia was told this, and since they're in the World Committee in the Security Council, Britain wasn't told anything except for like, don't expand into Greenland up here. Yeah, all these rules apply to every single country except for like the ones uniting. Like they can take those countries over. You're not allowed to have the name of Italy if you control these areas. Also, these areas over here, Malta and these three islands right here, Sardinia, Corsica, and this small one also is part of the Italian peninsula, as that's what they consider in this world, and so and so. Now, moving on to actual wars in this video, we will begin to see the French not attack into the Iberian Peninsula. Instead, they're going to be going after a different nation. After getting kicked out of the alliance they were in, they will be going after the Belgians, as they have seen, like, oh, what do you mean we're not allowed to expand in here? Like, other nations are protesting against France, and like, no, this is not allowed. If Prussia can't do this, neither can you, though the World Committee did not commit on that treaty. So we will begin to see the French begin to attack. They'll make a slow movement through down over here, but remember, their navy is still at the top of the world, which is kind of why they're still in the first place. But we will see the Monachians, or East Francia, join on this war, as they will begin to move into the eastern part. And remember, Prussia can't expand into these areas, as these two countries were not allowed to move into these areas. But since also does this, do you have any other colony around the world? No. Okay. As we will begin to see the Red Franks quickly move through the Belgium's territory, and they grow extremely dangerous to their capital, and they will continue to move through major city to major city, as they will completely block off the French over here, as they will take over these two major cities, but though they will not move much further north right here, as they are actually trying to protect Belgium. They're just and request for taking a little bit more land. So that deal was made. They just made it seem like it was a major war, but instead France only got that much land, which they were originally going to take around. They were originally supposed to take around this much, around that much territory away from Belgium, but now they can only take away the Normandy territories. Now let's move on to peace treaty time. And now we'll see the French take over this much territory, if it'll let me. Hello, computer. Thank you. It'll take France will take over this much territory, again, the Normandy territories, and Monaco will take over this amount of land, which only gained them around two to three major cities. Now, instead, we will have since there was no rules for Belgium to move into any country. Also, this needs to change a little. I don't like it. Maybe like that, like just up here needs to change. Okay, that's the official border, I guess. Like right here. Moving on. We'll see the Belgians move into old territory up here, claiming that they want this territory, this region all the way over here, as this was originally their territory, which is true, though they did not claim much of the Danish Isles. I believe they only claimed around this much, which is what they want from the Danish territories. But again, no, there were no rules for the Prussians to move into these territories, so tensions are really high. So Belgium will quickly move through their troops. And remember, the Danish territories up here, they are They're a relatively new country, which is why they don't really have much of a military, though they are still fighting back. It is mostly an overwhelming win for these. For the Prussians or the Polish, and for the Belgians over here, which the Belgians are moving up the Danish peninsula as they completely block off the Polish, and the Polish are now moving in by sea, and they successfully capture the capital, which means they would be getting the majority, which we will now move into the peace treaty. As now we'll see the Danish peninsula completely split up between these two different countries, as the Belgians will slightly go into the Danish peninsula, but not all the way, as they will take over this amount of territory, and the rest will go over to the Polish. Now let's just go ahead and get rid of their capital. Boom. That is one less country off the map, and we're about to have another less country off the map, but with a union. If we move up a little bit further north, we will see a country uniting with the green Swedish team. It'll actually probably be two countries that I'm thinking of. It will probably be, I'll highlight them, this country right here, and this country over here, which will swiftly get annexed very quickly. As now if we move on to the religion layer, these countries are heavily diversified, though they do have a very similar connection via religion, which is what they go for. And now we'll go ahead and remove these two capitals. But we'll have another union happening up here, and it'll be between the gold and purple team, as they will unite underneath a new government. As now they'll unite underneath two different governments underneath one single country. Boom, boom. I'm just gonna, yeah, there we go. As now we have a new team, and it will be called the Brown. Now, capitals and cities, there's not a whole lot of cities up here, so they'll stick with the old capital of the gold team. Which, actually, purple looks a lot better, so I'm just... It's gonna be purple now, yeah. As now we'll see another union all the way down here, but, it's gonna be a little further west. As all the way over here, we will see the old forces of the light blue country over here unite with the forces of the Iberian team. There we go. As now their colony has extended past their furthest one so far, and they'll likely be expanding all the way over here soon. Which now will have their capital be set up into the same capital of the gold brown team over here. But now we'll see the French get attacked this time by the Iberians, so they will not have their allies of the square team join them, as they are no one, not even nearby the French, except for colony-wise, though that would be completely useless for the Polish, as they barely even have access to the sea. Yeah, let me just finish this real quick. Alright, I just updated the military alliance. We had to remove three things, but still. That means the entire Scandinavian peninsula up here is completely united underneath around one single government, or one single alliance, I mean. The Irish, they don't really care about them. They said, sure, you can join. But now the square team will not be helping out the Iberians, as they are attacking the French, which the Polish have dropped all the way down to 5th place behind the Chinese. Which means the Iranians have dropped down to 7th place. The Greeks are in 3rd. Which, don't get me wrong, the Greeks and the Polish can hold their own, but against the French, not really. As now we will begin to see the Iberian team begin to move into French territory of their European claims. Oh, nope. Nope, not the right color. They'll slowly move into along the Mediterranean Sea territories, and they'll swiftly capture these two islands, and they'll begin to move through the mountainous territories of the Iberian Peninsula. Yeah, they have quickly captured this amount of territory, and they are beginning to extend their forces all the way over here. Originally, the Floridians were going to join, but due to internal conflict, they will not be joining against they're not going to be joining with the Iberians. As now, the Iberians are slowly expanding into the American territories, which will slowly which will slowly go to a huge stop. As now everyone's realizing the French are vulnerable, politically and militarily. So a lot of countries will begin to rethink their political news of the French, but that was before the French make a huge comeback saying, "You thought we were weak, you should see the Iberians." As now they'll completely push back the French all the way back, or the Iberians all the way back here, and continue forward, as they will move all the way down to the Atlantic coast, and that will make a turning point in the war. Even though they made a huge counter offensive, and huge military bases are now coming out and saying, "Oh, you messed up, Iran." Yeah, good joke. As now the French are slowly moving into Iberian American colony, and this is when they will make a foothold into the colony of Iberia, which makes it all the way over here. Huge amount of troops appearing in the Iberian Peninsula, and they're all French. Though surprisingly, the Iberian Navy is still holding strong against against the French Navy, which means that a lot of countries again are rethinking their political news of the Iberian and the French team. And now the Iberians are saying, "I am the inevitable," before they had realized that their colony, all the way in the Americas, are screwed. Also, I believe they have like a colony. Yeah, they do. Okay. I just needed to check because there's colors down there. Colors. Which now the French are completely navally blockading the Iberians from reaching any of their claims into South America, as now they'll just pop right into that country or into that colony, and the French are now reappearing back into their old American territories right over here, or African territories, yeah. And now the French are beginning to make an offensive into the Iberian lands, as now there will be, after the French have regained most of their previous territories all the way into the previous country over here in the Iberian territories, and they make a landing all the way in all the way at the northern African territory, and they'll move along the red team territory, and this is when they have reclaimed all previous country over here territory. And surprisingly, the Iberians are still putting up a good fight into the African colony of the French. But over here now, the Iberians will make a huge success, and they'll successfully surround this force over here, and successfully surround this force over here until the French have disappeared. The world will, but no, the French have disappeared out of the Iberian colony over here, and that's when the Iberians realize, "Oh no, you're a part of this. Michigan is a part of this." So they'll join on the war. They'll join in the war on the side of the French. So they'll quickly begin to move into the Iberian colony because they had troops ready for this. As we'll also see England thinking of, "Oh, we should join because their colony is right next door, along with the Irish, but the Irish right now are inferior." But now we'll continue to see the French doing successful motives other than their group all the way to the west of their expansion over here. Um, they're not really worried about that group, as that group is completely just, as they figured it would be completely gone by the time they had gotten there, as they were going to use the French troops over here as a hold-off point where they could completely push back the French over here. But that distraction had not worked, so now the French have completely blocked off the Iberians over here, which they'll slowly begin to lose until they fully surrender. So now, yeah, the French are moving through your territory along with the Michigans, as now you completely lost Long Island, and the French have made another landing all the way on the east side of your territory over here, which completely takes over all of the Connecticut regions over here and the Massachusetts regions, which now the Michigans have completely bordered the French on the west expansion group, and now the Michigans have reached the Atlantic coast. So, uh-oh, indeed. As now we will as the Michigans will completely surround this area, as now the French will begin to move somewhere else as they believe the Michigans got this. Until they don't, where now the Michigans begin to lose a lot, and turns out there was a spy in the operation, where they were pretending to be a part of the operation, which they quickly swung up on them, and they made huge, massive counteroffensives where they had regained access to the Atlantic coast, a very large region, which now they are controlling the Atlantic trade, and they're basically pirating everything they do, which they will begin to move into the territory of the Michigans over here, which is seen as an act of piracy, as all the acts of capturing French boats, naval assets, even citizen boats are taking everything they have and giving it to themselves, and they'll pretend to be the French troops, and again backstab everyone. Which now every single country is calling them pirates, as now they are committing acts of piracy, which would give you murder or death on sight if you had arrived into the French or any other Security Council nation, which again, act of piracy against these nations. As we will see, the Iberians continue to make a huge pushback, where now they are about to kick out the French completely on the eastern flank, and they're about to reach another spot towards the Atlantic Ocean, or this little sea over here. Now, moving on to a different area, we will begin to see the Iberians make another huge pushback, whereas now we will begin to see why they had actually kicked out the French out of their alliance, of the Star Point Alliance, or the 4-Point Star Alliance, or 5-Point Star Alliance. As now we'll see the Koreans sent aid to the Iberians, which even though they're not on their own team, and the Square team is like, uh-oh, what's happening? Oh no. They're ignoring everything. Which Korea sees this as, like, oh, you betrayed your ally. Which they make that official after the Iberians get kicked out of their alliance. And the Koreans are like, oh, you want to join our alliance? They're like, no, we don't want you to get involved in this. Little do they know that the French are actually slowly beginning to lose in these acts of war, as we will continue to see the Iberians continue to make counteroffensive into these French troop-controlled areas of their own territory, which will look like this. Yeah, France is slowly losing, but not in the African front, as now they have completely almost pushed them back and pushed into their territory all the way over here. Boom, boom, boom. And all the way down here, with they had almost completely pushed them out of their territory, all the way down here, which they had completely kicked them out of these islands, and France has completely controlled their island of theirs right there, and they'll completely control these all the way out here. Which over here, on the other hand, the Iberians are winning successfully until they realize, oh, what, you mean to tell me that we were getting played by them? So they realize, all these farmers realize, and like, oh, we want justice now. So they'll completely move out of the Michigan territories, and Michigan will be like, hold a ceasefire. We won't fight you. And so the French are like, we won't fight you either unless you rebel, which seems like a pretty daunting task to the colony up here. So they'll be like, are you sure? Are you gonna supply us and everything? Which slowly begins to look like in our world, in real life, where they are causing, or they are supplying them millions of dollars, which in this timeline in our timeline, it would be translated over to 1,563, maybe like $1,000,000, so $153 billion into debt, where now France has given them that amount of money, which now the red team over here is supplying the Iberians. Uh-oh, we got enemy behind lines. Yeah, they suddenly appeared along the red team's border. Who could have done that? Oh, they look like red troops. Like, why do they have their arms and everything? Until the red team has completely joined on the side of the Iberians, and yeah, most of the troops of the French are naval assets, and most of their troops are in the Iberian Peninsula fighting the war against the Iberians, which begin to slowly grow successful after the trade with the Koreans stop, after the Iberian leader has insulted the prime minister or the dictator of Korea, or monarchy, I believe. Monarchy, I think, right? No, democracy. Their prime minister, as we will see, the dictator of Iberia insult the leader of France and several other surrounding nations. So yeah, that doesn't work out well for them. But too bad. The red team is here. Oh, oh. Yeah, it seems like they were prepared, and hunger from a thousand years ago begins to grow even more, and yeah, they're being extremely brutal. But due to a peace treaty with Belgium is not allowed to join. But we'll see England sneakily making a move. Like, are you sure we can't take this? Okay. So they'll make a deal with the French and Iberians if doesn't matter whoever wins, this is mine. So they'll be like, sure, 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 just pay up, which they eventually do, but it took them a while. But we'll see the Italian team declare war onto the French, and they'll begin to move through the northern African territories of France. But so, weirdly enough, the northern Italians aren't doing anything. So, because they are pretending to be the Swiss version of neutral, supplying both sides. Which kind of doesn't work when you're surrounded by the enemies, and the actual good team, quote unquote, is also bordering you, navally and physically. But we'll begin to see the French push back heavily into Africa because French Africa, Free Africa, that thing. Yeah. Nationality is very strong in these countries, but other than that, we'll begin to see the French slowly went into the African territories all the way over here, and the French have completely rebordered the Iberian team over here. Which doesn't go well as now the French are rolling through, and turns out the Iberian troops in Africa are actually just red troops posing in for them. So all the Iberian troops, boom, yeah. Which the now the French are completely pushing you back, and now you gotta hold a defensive border in their own home territory. So yeah, it kind of goes something like this. And over here, originally, the French they made a deal where they would get around. They made a deal with the Iberian colony over here where the French and the Michigans would get around this much territory and they would leave them alone, which they'll have several colony areas over here appear. We have a green yellow colony protest appear down here. It's very, very similar in color. Which it would spread all the way over here, so but the other countries do not care. They're like, sure, go ahead. As they will completely contain all of this, and we'll see another one appear, and it will look like this. Another green protest appears, but it's all the way over here on the side where, or nearby the English territorial colony over here. So now the idea of having your own sovereign country is growing even more into the Canadian territories and Maine territories over here, which essentially this is just Maine. Maine is like right over here, but still. Essentially, this is just New England in real life. But we'll see another rebellion up here, and it'll be all the way up here in the north, where they don't really get much sea access, though they do have huge amounts of benefits with trade between two colonial nations and colonial allied nation. Okay, that's a little better. And we'll see another one appear, and it will be a red one, though it'll want to be its own nation all the way down here, where they will actually consist most of the coastal territories down here. And now what's left is just loyalist. as they want to fight back for their own thing. Which loyalist areas look like this. But let's go ahead and split this up. As now we see the Iberian colony over here has now looked like this. So yeah, your colony seems to be rebelling from you. Ooh, you got some civil unrest down here too. They look a little green. As they arrive all the way around this big. And turns out these are like fascist results, and we have pro-democracy revolts all the way up here in the north. Like, oh, you should have let us handle this, pro-people. And they will be teaming up with the French, though they aren't a monarchy. As we'll also see a monarchy one up here. It's going to be purple. Right over here, along the side with the fascist. Which the fascists and the monarchies, they don't get along. So there's a little bit of infighting in between each other until the monarchy and the fascists make a deal like, okay, I stay away from you, you stay away from me. So that's kind of how it works. But whoever gains the capital of the Iberian team will have uttermost control of the Iberians and have a say in what their ideology will be. As we see the pro-democracies get extremely close to the region of their capital, but so is the monarchies. Though the fascists, they're not that far. They will focus more on territorial wise, as they say we want to be our own country now. As now the capital is fully claimed by the monarchists. As now the fascist capitals, the fascist leaders will run all the way down here and say like, okay, we get it, we surrender. Which now it's just the French and the red team. Yeah, the French and red team. Yeah, the Indian team or the Italian team. Though there will not be much expansion all the way down here, we will actually see a little bit of on the red team side over here, a little bit along here, but we do see them expand a little in the original territories of the Iberians. As they'll expand a little over here, as they had actually expected this. Like, how dare you? But boom, this is what they look like now. As they'll completely take over these areas over here. The Italians have made a defensive front over here, and that this is as now we will see the French completely push back against the Monaicans or the East Franks. As they'll begin to push into these territories a little, right around here, right around this major cities, until they surrender. Like, we want to keep our sovereignty. You're not allowed to kill us or anything like that. Which they decide, sure, you can live, but there will be a bunch of repercussions. Now let's go and get on to that peace treaty. Alright, I just came back from the peace treaty, and... Don't say. Okay. And this is what I decided to come up with. So we're going to talk about the red team. They were heavily split up, but let's go ahead and talk about the first area that was originally supposed to be split up, but eventually got put together. These all the way up here. Boom, boom, boom. And even the Prussians got a little bit of land. But now, this little tiny region, which became an exclave, decided to be carved apart because they could not form their own nation. So we have the Belgians taking away this portion, the French taking away this, the Prussian, the Polish taking away that, and the Italian team taking away that. Yeah, that looks better. And now let's go and turn this off. Boom. And now, as you can tell, we have a new country that reappeared, but another one came. So we got a fascist group over here. The monarchy now, the democratic part decided to join the this flawed democracy, and this country over here will become another fascist group. And now let's just go ahead and highlight everything. Boom. You are now a full democracy. We'll set this up in a few seconds. But now, French full claims of these areas. The original deal, this country was supposed to get all their land back, but the French decided, no, you decided to be a part of the Iberians, so you're going to get punished for that. Though they did get a little bit of land from them. This country got a little bit of land from the Iberians, and from the Red Team. the French got this amount of land from them, and there was a little bit of trade deal with this country up here, Galicia. France will take away this portion and that portion right there. And now Galicia will take away this away from Iberia, which extends them down a little further down, a little further south. And now the Gibraltar country will take away this from them, from Iberia, continental Iberia, but they will take away this from their African territory, and they'll take away this portion from the red team, which now the red team is basically a crippled communist country. Which again, I will fix in a little bit, just not right now. But, oh yeah, the Italian team, the Southern Italians. As the Southern Italians will just gain this portion a lot bigger from what they claimed, but the French did not care about the eastern part over here, as they now don't have the Italian lands up here, which they could have gotten, but, countries decided no. But, we'll continue to see even more happen all the way over here. 4 new countries will appear, but let's start off with the Michigan claim. They will claim this much from Iberian claim, and the French will claim this much. Now, this new Long Island country did lose a little bit of land in the deal, where the Massachusetts would take that much, but this northern country up here would take away this new Maine country will take away this, and that. So now all they need is a little bit of portion over here, and they would be fine. But yeah, that is probably going to be it for today's video, or today's episode, but other than that, nice to see y'all, and see y'all next time.